Red light is burning. We are moving into the highest level of the fortress, the command and control center of reality. In the era of the totalitarian final boss, the most dangerous weapon isn't a kinetic missile or a digital virus. It is the narrative. The soft men believe they think their own thoughts, but they are merely biological terminals for the lords of the grid. They are living in a prefabricated hallucination designed to make their own enslavement feel like progress. The architect knows that to be truly sovereign, he must move from being a consumer of truth to being an architect of meaning. Let's dismantle the objective reality illusion. The soft man is waiting for the facts to save him. He believes that if he just has enough evidence, the system will realize its mistake and fairness will be restored. He is a child. In the high-frequency environment of the current landscape, facts are secondary to meaning frames. A fact is just a raw data point. A meaning frame is the software that tells the brain what that data point signifies. The state spends trillions on sentiment analysis and cognitive priming because they know that if they own the frame, they own the outcome. The architect realizes that truth is a sovereign asset that he must manufacture and distribute for his own perimeter. He doesn't look for meaning, he imposes it. The first move in becoming an architect of meaning is the deprogramming of the default script. You were born into a moral and economic operating system that was written by people who wanted you productive but obedient. This script tells you that security is better than sovereignty, that status is found in consumption, and that the future is a managed progression overseen by experts. The architect performs a system wipe. He realizes that the lords of the grid use language to create invisible fences. Words like regulation, safety, contribution, and misinformation are not descriptors. They are neural anchors designed to trigger a compliance reflex. The architect delinks these words from their emotional payload. He sees the grid for what it is, a giant aging machine trying to protect its database at the expense of your human torque. Furthermore, we must address the vacuum of purpose. As the old world rots, the soft man is falling into nihilism. He has lost his religion, his nation, and his career stability. He is a meaning-starved organism. This is the most dangerous state for a human to be in, because he will accept any meaning frame that provides him with a sense of belonging. The state offers him social credit and digital collective identity to fill the void. The architect offers a parallel purpose. He creates a narrative of excellence, autonomy, and expansion. He doesn't convince people. He resonates with the suppressed sovereign instinct that still lives in the high-torque minority. He is building a cognitive sanctuary where the rules of the grid no longer apply. The architect understands the archetypal architecture of power. Human beings are not moved by data, they are moved by myth. The state knows this. They create villains and heroes out of statistics. The architect creates his own mythology. He frames the struggle for sovereignty not as a financial strategy, but as a biological crusade. He frames the mitochondrial dividend as the purification of the temple. He frames the resource cannibalism as the survival of the worthy. By attaching high-stakes meaning to low-level actions, he ensures that his nodes operate with an intensity that the paid bureaucrats of the state can never match. He is weaponizing the human spirit against the digital machine. We must also talk about the monopoly of interpretation. In your perimeter, you are the supreme court of meaning. When the grid sends a signal, a new tax, a new restriction, a new crisis, the soft man looks to the official media to tell him how to feel. The architect's nodes look to the sovereign signal. The architect provides the counter-interpretation instantly. He reframes the tax as a feudal tribute, the restriction as a challenge for innovation, and the crisis as a liquidity event for the brave. By providing the first and most potent meaning, the architect prevents the grid software from ever installing in the minds of his people. He is the firewall of the soul. The soft man is terrified of indoctrination. He wants to be open-minded. The architect knows that open-mindedness is just vulnerability to external programming. If you don't architect your own meaning, someone else will architect it for you. There is no neutral ground. You are either a broadcaster or a receiver. The architect chooses to be the broadcaster. He creates a meaning system that is so internalized and so effective that it becomes self-evident to those who live within it. He is not brainwashing. He is cleaning the lens. He is removing the grid smog so his people can see the mathematics of power clearly for the first time. The final stage of this architecture is the living narrative. A meaning frame only holds power if it results in a superior physical reality. The architect doesn't just speak meaning, he executes it. He proves the meaning by building the fortress. He proves the meaning by achieving metabolic velocity. He proves the meaning by owning the assets. The result is the final argument. The soft men can argue with words, but they cannot argue with sovereignty. sovereignty. When the architect's people are healthy, wealthy, and free, while the rest of the world is sick, poor, and monitored, the battle for meaning is won. The meaning has become manifest. Part 1 is the cognitive hard fork. Stop being a consumer of narratives and start being the source of logic. The world is a construction of meaning, and the person who controls the definitions controls the destiny. The lords of the grid have the volume, but you have the resolution. You have the truth of the sovereign. It's time to stop debating their reality and start architecting your own. The soft man is a hollow vessel because he lacks an internal meaning engine. He is forced to rent his identity from the grid. He defines himself by his job title, his social credit standing, and the current thing he is instructed to support. He is a skin suit for the state's propaganda. The architect knows that to build a lasting sovereign perimeter, you cannot rely on logic alone. You must engage the myth engine. In the second stage of our protocol, we move into the crafting of the sovereign identity. This is the process of using archetypes and deep programming to turn your nodes into a psychologically impenetrable force. Let's dismantle the rationality myth. The lords of the grid want you to believe that humans are rational actors who make decisions based on data. They want this because data is something they control. But the architect knows that humans are narrative animals. We don't die for a spreadsheet, but we will die for a symbol. The myth engine is the process of attaching your sovereign strategy to the ancient subconscious hero arc that lives in the human DNA. You aren't just teaching people how to exit the digital ruble. You are initiating them into the order of the unseen architects. You are giving them a secret history and a destiny that makes the state's official narrative look like a boring gray funeral. The first move in the myth engine is archetypal framing. The soft man is framed by the state as a component, a replaceable part of the social machine. The architect reframes his people as the remnant. This is the ancient archetype of the chosen few who preserve the light of knowledge during a dark age. By framing the 2026 landscape as a technological dark age, you turn the hardship of sovereignty into a heroic necessity. The cold plunge isn't just health optimization, it is a ritual of purification. The resource cannibalism isn't scavenging, it is reclaiming the stolen fire. When you change the name of the action, you change the metabolic quality of the man performing it. You are building a cognitive elite who view themselves as the legitimate successors to civilization. Furthermore, we must address the creation of the sovereign symbol. Every empire in history understood that the image precedes the act. The state uses QR codes and digital IDs as symbols of security. The architect creates symbols of autonomy. These are internalized signifiers, specific habits, gray zone terminologies, and perimeter rituals that signal membership in the sovereign tribe. These symbols act as a psychological firewall. When a member of your perimeter sees a state narrative on the screen, they don't just disagree, they feel a visceral repulsion because that narrative is incompatible with their sovereign identity. You have hard-coded their loyalty into their very sense of self. The architect also utilizes the power of the shadow. The state tries to sanitize reality, pushing all predatory instincts and hard truths into the shadow. The architect integrates the shadow. He tells his people the truth that the state is too polite to admit, that the world is competitive, that strength is a virtue, and that the weak will be consumed by the algorithm. By validating the forbidden instincts, the architect gains an authority that the state can never have. He is the only one speaking the language of the blood. This creates a tribal bond that is deeper than law. You are the wolf leading the wolves, while the state is just a bureaucrat trying to manage the sheep. We must also talk about the myth of inevitability. The lords of the grid spend billions to make you believe that their digital enclosure is inevitable, that resistance is futile. The architect counters this with the myth of the collapse. He teaches his people that the grid is biologically unstable, mathematically corrupt, and spiritually dead. He frames the state as a dying giant that is lashing out in its final moments. This turns the fear of the state into pity for the state. You aren't hiding from a powerful enemy, you are outlasting a rotting corpse. This shift in perspective provides the moral superiority required to execute high-risk sovereign moves without hesitation. You aren't a rebel, you are the future. The soft man is looking for consensus. He wants everyone to agree. The architect knows that consensus is the death of sovereignty. He uses the myth engine to create strategic isolation. He wants his people to feel different. He cultivates a sense of alienation from the mass culture. He makes being normal feel like a failure. When your people feel like gods in exile, they will never comply with the peasant codes of the digital ruble. They are physically present in the world, but mythologically detached from it. They are living in the future, while the soft men are decaying in the past. Part 2 is the identity hard fork. Stop informing your audience and start initiating them. Information is static. Identity is kinetic. If you give a man a fact, he might remember it. If you give a man a myth, he will build an empire to fulfill it. The 2026 landscape is a war of stories, and the softest story always loses. The architect crafts a story of relentless excellence and biological dominance. He turns his nodes into living prototypes of the sovereign human. The grid has the servers, but you have the script. The lords have the code, but you have the spirit. When the myth is stronger than the monitoring, the prison walls become transparent. You are no longer waiting for freedom. You have architected it inside the mind, and the physical world has no choice but to follow. The state's monopoly on perception is the only thing keeping the digital noose tight. In the final stage of our protocol, we execute the sovereign reality tunnel. This is the practical application of your meaning architecture to the physical world. While the soft men are drowning in a flood of contradictory AI slop and state-sponsored fear, the architect constructs a zero-noise environment for his perimeter. You are no longer just telling a story, you are enforcing a reality. In 2026, the person who provides the most stable logic becomes the de facto center of gravity for all local capital and human torque. Let's define the meaning filter. The soft man is a neural sponge, absorbing every headline, every market dip, and every social panic. He's in a state of reactive chaos. The architect builds a cognitive perimeter. He teaches his nodes to view every external signal through the lens of sovereign profit. If the state announces a new restriction, the soft man sees a wall. The architect's nodes, programmed by his meaning architecture, see a sieve, a tool to filter out the weak competition. You have turned obstacles into fuel. This isn't optimism, it is strategic recoding. You are the primary processor that translates the grid's noise into operational intelligence. Furthermore, we must address the monetization of meaning. A reality tunnel is useless if it doesn't produce hard assets. The architect uses his interpretive monopoly to drive directed action. Because your people trust your meaning frame, they move as a single high-velocity unit. When you signal that a specific gray zone asset is the safe haven, the entire network moves. You have created internal liquidity. You aren't predicting the market, you are creating the market within your own tunnel. The meaning you provide acts as the standardized value for your private economy. You have successfully decoupled the worth of your actions from the official exchange rates of the state. We are killing the external authority. We are installing the internal command. The architect also practices narrative fortification. In the year 2026, the state will attempt cognitive infiltration. They will try to introduce doubt into your reality tunnel using fact checkers and social shaming. The architect uses the law of superior outcomes. You prove your meaning is true by the fact that your people are the only ones whose mitochondria are optimized, whose digital rubles have been converted to hard assets, and whose perimeter remains untouched. Success is the supreme argument. When the grid's reality leads to sickness and poverty, and your reality tunnel leads to health and power, the meaning becomes immutable fact. You don't need to defend your narrative. You just need to exhibit the results. We must also talk about the expansion of the tunnel. As the official world becomes more incoherent and painful, the soft men will begin to leak toward your perimeter. They are looking for a master. The architect doesn't just let them in. He uses selective induction. He requires them to burn their bridges to the old world. They must purge their compliance habits and metabolize the new sovereign logic. You are harvesting the displaced and converting them into new infrastructure. Your reality tunnel becomes a gravity well, sucking in the remaining human talent from the dying state. You are building an invisible nation that is physically located within the state's borders, but psychologically residing in your architected future. The final component of the sovereign reality tunnel is temporal sovereignty. The state uses meaning to make you short-term. They want you focused on the next election, the next crisis, the next stimulus. The architect provides a generational meaning frame. He connects his nodes to a timeless mission. He frames their daily execution as a contribution to a 100-year bloodline. This long-term frequency makes you invulnerable to the short-term shocks of the grid. You are playing a game of centuries, while the lords of the grid are playing a game of minutes. You win by outlasting the noise. The soft man is waiting for the truth to be revealed by some official body. He is a subject of someone else's reality. The architect has realized that truth is a weaponized utility. In 2026, the only truth that matters is the one that allows you to command your environment and expand your perimeter. You have exited the debate. You have hard-faced your will. You are the source of logic for a new breed of human. You are not finding your place in the world. You are architecting the world to fit your place. Part 3 is the final assertion. Stop searching for meaning and start projecting it. The universe is malleable to the man with metabolic velocity and narrative clarity. The grid is just a thin film over the void. Once you have architected the meaning, you can walk through the walls of their digital prison because you have realized they are made of paper logic. The sovereign reality tunnel is the final exit. The architecture is complete. The meaning is set. The will is enforced.